Big day for the HeavyHaul ToterHome project I've been working on, because in this video we're going to complete everything else that's left to do on the inside of these living quarters. I need some lighting back in my bathroom area, so I'm going to add 2 of these lights. And then I'll also get my exhaust fan wiring right into there, because anytime I'm going to want lights on back here, I'll probably want the fan going too. So then the fan can just switch on with the lights. Now for lighting up the inside of the shower, I'm just going to rely on light shining through the translucent shower curtain to kind of lighten things up in there. So I'm going to mount the 2 lights right here in this middle section, but I want them at a slight angle so that one can light up the shower and one can point over in this other corner where the toilet will be. I have this piece of stainless steel with some lines marked on it. So some of these are bend lines. I think after cutting this out and bending along some of these lines, I'm going to end up with a nice little bracket that both of these lights can mount to and put a slight angle on them. I don't have a press brake, so I'm just going to scribe lines on these bend lines to make the metal a little bit thinner there, and then we can just bend it by hand. I'll scribe the lines with my circular saw blade, which is just barely sticking out. And that'll remove just enough metal to where it'll guide the bend nice and straight. These inner lines get the scribe marks from this saw, and then I use the plasma cutter to slice all the way through the outer lines and cut out this complete design, including the 2 holes that the light brackets will be placed. Okay, I bent that piece in the vise, all these edges. So now I'm going to weld this seam, and I'll have this backer plate back here too that'll get welded in, and that'll soak a lot of the heat out of the weld so it doesn't melt these edges away. I'm putting the least amount of heat into this seam as I can since it's such thin metal and I don't want to warp it or blow through it. And after sanding that weld smooth, I'm welding a tall nut to the center of this for mounting. Alright, there's the hole for the 1 bolt that's going to hold this whole light fixture up. And here it is, all sanded and painted. Turned out really nice. Even has the inserts that the lights will clip into. And it has this one center nut there that the bolt's going to tap into and just cinch this up. Alright, let's see if I can get this thing started up here. It's probably going to be tricky. I have it loosely mounted up there because I can still wiggle it around a little bit and feed some wire in. So that'll be the main wire coming in to feed everything. And we also need to get a little fan wire tucked in here too. I'll chop its plug off and feed it into there. Got the lights all wired up. Even have the wiring coming in kind of tucked up there behind some duct tape. So now let's test them out. Oh yeah. Fan comes on, nice and bright back here. I finally have running water in my living quarters, which means I can start showering again. Which is great, because I was getting pretty ripe ever since my outdoor shower setup froze because of winter. However, recently it hasn't been so bad because Mando stepped in to keep me from fumigating myself with my own BO, and they are the sponsor of today's video. Mando was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Mando is a high-performance whole-body deodorant that you can apply everywhere, such as pits, packages, and feet. Mando is clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. In studies, 12 hours after a shower, the average man's odor level was a 5 out of 10. But with Mando, the average odor level is a 0 out of 10. Choose from 4 different scents that are all unique. Bourbon Leather, Clover Woods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport. They even have unscented. Mando did an awesome job with all their scents. They all smell great, with my favorite probably being Clover Woods, because it allows me to blend into all the forest that surrounds my shop. Unlike certain traditional deodorants that try to mask odor with a fragrance, Mando is formulated and powered by mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts, more like a pre-odorant. Mando reduces odor all day and continues controlling BO for 72 hours. Now what's most important to me is Mando products do not include parabens, phthalates, or aluminum, because once I learned about the negative health effects of those ingredients, I cut them out of my life years ago. So I'm glad that Mando shares those same values, and I get to include them into my daily regimen. Mando's starter pack bundle is a great deal for new customers. It comes with a full-size stick deodorant, a cream deodorant or spray deodorant, and 2 free products like the wipes or mini body wash, as well as free US shipping. And just for my followers, Mando is offering an extra $5 off when you click the link in my description below and enter code HUNTER at checkout. That's a deal of over 40% off. Thank you, Mando, for sponsoring this video. And now, let's get back to finishing the rest of these living quarters. Putting some lights in now. And I'm reusing screw holes that were holding up these ceiling sheets already, because all these screws are tapping into the metal framework of the roof. So mounting our light fixtures to that framework will make sure that these lights will never fall down. Alright, I wired into this junction box, and now I have this tray that sticks to the ceiling, and I can clip in. And it'll be a nice little channel for the wiring to run through to feed the lights. So let me get this fed in here. I'll peel off this protective layer. Add this little 90 cover right there. And then it goes in there. We can finish wiring the rest of the way. All right, we're done with the wiring. So I'll just package this all back up. As well as this next one. I'll flick on these lights. Oh yeah, super bright in here. These are dimmable lights, so maybe I'll add a dimmable switch later. I probably should have prioritized putting lights in here earlier, but I've been getting by on just this light that HeatWave happened to send me out. So I like it. I'm gonna keep it involved and mount it front and center up here. And HeatWave has been supporting the channel since the very beginning, so shout out HeatWave. I'm super thankful for all the sunglasses and safety glasses they sent me over the years. So if you guys ever want to pull the trigger on getting some HeatWaves, I have a 10% off discount code you're welcome to use. Alright, I did pop this piece of wood out. Then I hogged this hole out right here. Because I am going to nestle a little water pump switch right there in that hole. Let me get this screwed in here. Now let me add some wire to this. And pop this back in here. Now we got a nice little switch hidden in there. And feel free to give me crap for putting a switch so close to a water source, but I ain't scared. Turned out pretty sleek in there. Alright, now I'm gonna hook up all my sink hoses, as well as install this weight for the pull-out faucet. Getting the sink drain installed now. So there's that. Also, I have my AC to DC converter over here to run the water pump. And I do have 120 volts AC coming in there. And then this outlet is switchable. So now when the converter's plugged into there, and we hit our switch out here, the pump comes on. Now I'm going to spruce up this little shelf cubby area I have above the bathroom area by adding some of this rubber mat. A few strips of that up there should keep anything I try to store up there a little more sturdy and resistant from sliding around. Now instead of having the entire shelf covered in rubber, I'm using my chop saw to cut this roll into 3 smaller sections so we can alternate between strips of rubber and strips of just the painted metal. Once I peel the tape off this rubber, the whole underside of it is sticky, and then I use this roller to fully seat it. Block off plates in, all the rubber strips are in, and I did paint in between the strips. Then on all these seams I put some caulking to seal up that seam. But then for this leading edge, it's a little bit ugly with all these layers, so I'm going to cap this off with an angle of stainless steel and screw that down. Now along this side of the wall are going to be fridges. Yes, fridges, because there'll be 2 identical ones. Because I hate eating out, so I need a lot of fridge space. But I'm also limited to the size of fridge I can fit through my door. So instead of 1 big fridge, I had to get 2 medium fridges. But in order to make the most out of space, I'm going to jack these fridges up so they take up airspace near the ceiling. Because below, I'm going to make this sort of wood framework that will allow these yellow and black storage boxes to slide under. So then the entire height of this wall will be either fridge or storage space. So I have this main piece of wood here, screwed all the way into the steel framework of the box. So that's going to be a nice sturdy shelf for us to extend some plywood out and a whole bunch more wooden framework. So that's what we're going to work on now. First, I cut my sheet of plywood in half so I can use half of it for the top deck, and then the other half will get cut into vertical wall pieces to separate each cubby. I'm using 2x2 pieces of wood for the framework, and although they may not be the strongest pieces ever, I'm gaining a lot of strength from each of the vertical plywood pieces that are screwed to each of these sections of 2x2 framework. And since some of the 2x2s are screwed to the floor and into the wall, this shelf should have no issues with supporting the weight of the 2 fridges. Okay. Perfect. That looks like hey, you forgot an outlet. Nice. All right, on this first fridge, I'm gonna swap the side that the doors hinge on, and that way both doors of each fridge will open up mirrored to each other. Just gotta zip off this bracket. There he goes, finally. Now I'll zip off this middle bracket. There goes the freezer door. Now there's these little plugs with these other holes. So we'll go ahead and swap sides with those. And lastly, this top bracket. This transferred over to this side. All right, bottom bracket going to this other side. We'll put this fridge door on. Then this middle bracket. And lastly, the freezer door with this top bracket. Now I'll thread these feet back on. I'm going to screw up through this shelf and into a bit of framework on the bottom of the fridge, and that'll be one of the ways I restrain these fridges. There's this channel that we just set the screw through. So a bunch of screws along the bottom like that, plus a bracket or two up top, should keep these fridges nice and secure. Never mind, I'm switching to nuts and bolts because the metal on the bottom of that fridge was way too thin for a screw to reliably grip into. Up here in the wall of the freezer, I am actually going to just screw this massive screw through the wall of this. So that screw passes through the wall, through this gap, through this piece of plywood, and then screws into this steel. So that sucks this fridge right up against this steel up top. So now it turns out real sturdy. Really sturdy. And I am left with a 1.5 inch gap behind the fridge, so if it gets hot back there, it can breathe. All right, it's kind of up here. Rotate it around. Now, there's a lot of fridge space to work with. Remember the piece of butcher block I cut out of my countertop to make room for the sink to drop into? Well, I took that piece and slightly trimmed it down to a particular size, and then set my circular saw at a shallow height to chip away at 2 recesses that were 1/4 inch deep, so I could fit some hinges into those recesses. And then I added new stain and polyurethane to the freshly cut edges. And then I attached that chunk with hinges to the rest of my countertop, because now this extends up and extends out my kitchen area. But I still like that it folds out of the way, so I can have a little cubby here for an extra seat with an extra secondary desk space working on this bed frame if need be. But most of the time, I'll appreciate the extra kitchen space. So I just bring this piece up, rotate this bracket over, and it sits down like that. And it sits on that stainless steel bracket like that, and I can add more weight capacity by adding a second screw. And being that this is butcher block, it's really sturdy all the way out to this corner. So I can hold whatever weight I want to put on that, while also seaming up against this nicely and having those hinges just flush down in there. Still have a little bit of this aluminum sheet that I need to hang up on the walls in the corner where the toilet's going. So I'm going to shear this down to size right now. I need to relieve a little hoop here so this can slot over the pipe that comes out right here to feed the toilet water. And there's also an outlet going here, so I need to cut out a hole for that. Nice, that fit perfectly. Screwing some strips of plywood right here on this 2x2 because that'll space things out to where this will be flush with this steel. And with this flush, with these outer mounting surfaces, this aluminum skin that's about to come in here can also attach here. Also a strip going down here, and this will tie in that bottom edge of the aluminum nice and secure. Let's get this piece in place. Oh yeah, I've been nailing these. All right, this piece of wood is going to be to support one of the edges of the upper bed, and that notch is going to notch around the steel. Now that there's wood along that whole edge, I can put a sheet of plywood up here for the next bed. I do have a little channel for this wire to slip down into so that we can still power the heat wave light up there. Alrighty, there's that piece. Even took the router along this edge. So now let's get it screwed down. Some people may think it's a little hokey, but I quite like using some Gorilla Tape to tie together some of these seams throughout here. Like this piece will just wrap around and tie together these edges quite nicely. I feel like that turned out nice. Now I only did the caulking on the seams up there in the shelf area where you can't really see them up close. But for all the rest of the seams around the box, I got this actual trim stuff. It has some putty at the back, and then these edges that'll mold into the contours. Like for example, this vertical seam in my corner of my kitchen here, I'll add this stuff. So as you can see, that trim makes it look a lot nicer wherever two different metal sheets are coming together. Let me do a complete walkthrough so you guys can get your bearings on the layout of this whole box. So, come in the door through the back, shower in this corner, toilet's going in this corner, then boom, fridge is there, kitchen, and then the main bed, secondary bed. Eventually I'll have another bed platform that hinges off the wall. It'll rest on that framework. That's why I also cut out a relief there to catch that edge. Then we have the desk as well. So yeah, that's the whole box. Plenty of storage under there, storage up there. And now the only thing left to do is some flooring. I have this nice thin, low profile stuff, just peel and stick. So let's get that down on the ground. Now I have this bent piece of stainless steel at a slightly acute angle. And now that the flooring's in, this is gonna be the trim piece to cap this all off back here finally. It should just slot into here. I loosened a few of these screws to give me some gap. There we go. And cinch these screws back up, I guess. And then that pinches down nicely on that first plank and ties everything together. So that's that. All the major indoor components are in place on the inside of these living quarters. I'm sure I'll add some little things here and there over time. It's not quite roadworthy yet, just because we need latches on all the cabinet doors and whatnot so that things don't fly open while going down the road. But we're still a ways from this thing going down the road because now it's time to transition to building the whole truck underneath it. So it feels great to have the living quarters complete, and now I'm excited to transition into all the hardcore steel and fab work and engine work of building the awesome truck that's going underneath this. If you missed the other videos of building out the living quarters, I have them organized on a playlist in my channel, and I'll keep adding to that playlist so that the progress of this whole truck build can be nice and organized for you guys there. So see you in the next one.